The Life and Legacy of Chester A. Arthur, America's 21st President. Chester A. Arthur's rise from obscurity to the presidency is a tale of unexpected fortune and political acumen. Born in a small Vermont town, his early years seemed unremarkable, yet they laid the groundwork for his complex and influential political career. In 1829, Arthur was born in Fairfield, Vermont, a setting that offered the rugged landscapes of New England and a modest upbringing. His father, a preacher, instilled in him a rigorous work ethic and a strong moral compass, which would guide him throughout his life. Arthur's pursuit of education led him to the state and national law school, where he immersed himself in legal studies. This period was crucial in shaping his analytical mind and understanding of American law, which would later influence his political decisions. Before entering the political arena, Arthur worked as a school teacher and lawyer. These roles honed his skills in leadership and advocacy, preparing him for the complexities of New York's legal and political scenes, where he would make his mark. Arthur's initial foray into politics was as a lawyer in New York, navigating the intricate landscape of legal affairs and political connections. His involvement with the Republican Party and his legal acumen quickly propelled him into significant political roles within the state. Chester A. Arthur's political career gained momentum through his involvement with the New York Republican political machine, led by Senator Roscoe Conkling. Known as the Conkling Machine, this group wielded significant influence, propelling Arthur into prominent political roles. During the Civil War, Arthur served as the Quartermaster General of New York. In this capacity, he was responsible for equipping and dispatching troops, showcasing his organizational prowess and dedication to the Union cause. After the war, Arthur returned to his legal practice but remained active in politics. He became a strong advocate for civil service reform, fighting against the rampant corruption that plagued the post-war years. Arthur's political rise continued as he was selected to be James Garfield's running mate in the 1880 presidential election. The pairing was unexpected, as Arthur was primarily chosen to appease Conkling and his faction within the Republican Party. The 1880 election proved successful for Garfield and Arthur, who defeated their Democratic opponents, Winfield Scott Hancock and William H. English. The victory was a testament to the strategic assembly of their Republican ticket. Chester A. Arthur ascended to the vice presidency in 1880 alongside President James Garfield. Their victory was marked by a campaign that successfully appealed to a broad spectrum of voters, paving their way to the White House against Democratic candidate Winfield Scott Hancock. Tragedy struck in 1881 when President Garfield was assassinated. The nation was plunged into mourning, and Arthur, a man once considered an unlikely candidate for the presidency, found himself thrust into the role under the most somber circumstances. Upon assuming office, President Arthur faced the daunting task of leading a grieving nation. Despite concerns about his political background and loyalty to the spoils system, he surprised many by advocating for reform and modernization, particularly within the U.S. Navy. One of Arthur's significant contributions was the Pendleton Civil Service Reform Act of 1883. This landmark legislation aimed to eradicate the rampant patronage and corruption in hiring government officials, establishing merit-based criteria and competitive exams for public service positions. Arthur's foreign policy initiatives were cautious yet strategic, focusing on maintaining peace and advancing America's interests abroad. His administration skillfully navigated through several international disputes, enhancing the country's diplomatic stature on the global stage. Chester A. Arthur's foreign policy was marked by a diplomatic approach that sought to strengthen the United States' position on the global stage. He successfully navigated through various international issues, upholding American interests while maintaining peaceful relations with other nations. As president, Arthur struggled with health issues, specifically a debilitating kidney disease known as Bright's disease. This illness greatly affected his energy and capacity to govern, casting a shadow over his tenure in the White House and influencing his political decisions. Arthur faced significant criticism and controversy during his presidency, particularly from those who doubted his commitment to reform and his sudden rise from a New York political machine to the presidency. Despite these challenges, he endeavored to maintain his focus on national issues. Deciding against seeking a full term in office, Arthur stepped back from the rigors of political life, influenced by his health and the desire to avoid the contentious atmosphere of another election campaign. This decision underscored his pragmatic approach to his political career. After his presidency, Arthur returned to his legal practice and made occasional public appearances. Though his health continued to decline, he remained engaged in legal affairs and social functions until his death in 1886, leaving a complex legacy that mixed political reform with personal discretion. Chester A. Arthur passed away on November 18, 1886, leaving behind a complex legacy. His tenure was marked by significant reforms, including the Pendleton Act, which reshaped the American civil service system, influencing the functionality of government employment to this day. In retrospect, Arthur's contributions to American politics and civil service reform have prompted a reassessment of his presidency. Although once overshadowed by his sudden rise to power and health struggles, modern historians recognize his efforts in government reform and policy as foundational to later advancements.